Remember, we used our graphing calculators a lot on these, but we had to do a little bit of work. Where did we begin? What did we find on these?
X equals opposite of B over 2 times A.
We had to get that vertex, that point for the middle. So the opposite of B over 2A. So the opposite of B, it's a positive 10, so that'd be a negative 10 over 2 times negative 1. So negative 10 over negative 2 is positive 5. And that was the number we put in the center. And what did we do after that? Okay, so go to your calculator, your y equals, and we typed in the negative x squared plus 10x minus 28. And then we went into what? Yep, the table. So if you did second graph. So we had the 5 in the middle. So we need our points around it. So we could do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And our table gives us the y's. So 3, negative 7. 4, negative 4.
5, negative 3, 6, negative 4, and 7, negative 7.
Thank you. All right, so then we plot these. Negative 7. 4, negative 4. 5, negative 3. And our graph looks something like this. All right, from there, once you have the graph, you should be able to answer a lot of questions about it. So if I am looking, what is the axis of symmetry on this? It's that x equals that we found. X equals 5. So axis of symmetry is the vertical line that goes through the middle. So you always have to give me the full equation. It's the x value of the vertex. So x equals 5. Then what did we find our vertex to be on this one? So we need that full point. Domain every time is going to be all real numbers. And the range on this one, perfect. Okay, do you guys remember those? Okay. Let's look at number 6. I know it's 3 I also skipped. I'm going to continue skipping that one for now. Let's go down to 6. How is this one different? It's written in the other form. The first one was written in standard form where everything's all multiplied out. This one is the vertex form. So we could think about transformations. We can also, you guys seem to not like the transformations as well. So let's figure out how to get the vertex from here. To find the x value, which is really all we need to set up our table, just look at this parenthesis. What makes the x minus 1 equal 0? That's going to be the center. All right, now let's use our y equals. And go into the table. Is everybody getting these points on their table? Did anybody forget how to get those on the calculator? You need to look at that. Okay, if I plot those, my graph does not have -1, -12, doesn't go down that far, so I'm just going to skip that point for now. So we have 0, -3, 1, 0, 2, -3. And we don't have the -12. So this is my graph. What is the axis of symmetry for that? X equals 1, the center, the vertex. The vertex was the order pair. Domain, no matter what, all real numbers. And my range, since again this opened down, it'd be y is less than or equal to 0. Alright, do you guys feel like you could do those graphs on the front then? Okay. Let's go to the next page. So, I had you guys skip 12 through 16. And I want to kind of talk through those a little bit. So this one is asking us to basically make some comparisons. All right, we have found zeros a couple different ways. We have found them by looking at a graph. On the graph, what are the zeros? What am I asking for? Okay, so let's get this graph first. I didn't give you all the prompts to find the axis of symmetry and the vertex and all of that, or the table. You certainly could. If you wanted to just get some points to graph it, could we just use the table function on here and plot our points? Let's practice something. So go to your y equals and let's type this in. X squared plus 8x plus 15. And then I want everybody to go into the table from there. Can you look at your y values and tell me where your vertex is going to happen from that table?
I thought you go up.
Can you guys tell where the vertex is at? Tell me the point. -4, -1. Do you guys see how that's the vertex because the points switch direction? On both sides of that, your y's are the same. You will also have access to Desmos on this test, so we could certainly use that if I didn't give you a table to fill in and say you had to use that. So if I started plotting some of these points, so we have -4, -1, -5, 0, -6, 3, and let's go the other direction. So -3, 0, -2, 3. Can you also look at the graph itself on your calculator and use that to help? Don't you love those updates that pop up if your mouse hits the wrong spot? Alright, does everyone know where I'm getting this? So can you tell me from that graph what the zeros are? Zeros, another word for zeros, those are the x-intercepts. It's where this graph hits the x-axis. If we are looking at our table, those are the x's that make our y 0. If I'm looking at my graph, those are the points where we hit the x-axis. So they are -3 and -5. If I had asked you to factor this original quadratic, X squared plus 18x plus 15. What two numbers multiply to 15 and add to negative or add to positive 8? Okay, so we have found the zeros two different ways. We've found them by graphing. We've also found them by factoring. If you factor, what makes x plus 3 equal 0? Negative 3. What makes x plus 5 equal 0? Negative 5. So that's just kind of showing you how they're all related. All right. Number 13. Why don't you guys see if you can find the zeros from the graph? Okay, so everybody take a second to graph it and see if you can look. My zeros. Those are the points where we hit the x-axis. How many times did this graph touch? Once. If you looked at your table, can you guys tell me where the vertex is? 2, 0. Then we had like 1, negative 2, 3, negative 2. So that's just a rough sketch, which is all I needed here. So I can tell from that the only place we hit the x-axis is at positive 2. If I asked you to factor this one, we have to do a little bit more. What do I need to take out of this? We could take out a negative 2, then that would be x squared minus 4x plus 4. All right, what numbers multiply to positive 4 and add to negative 4? Okay, so just kind of comparing, making sure that all this lines up, does negative 2 ever equal 0? No, so that number doesn't give me an x-intercept. What makes x minus 2 equal 0? Positive 2. What makes x minus 2? 2. So that's why we got 1 point on the x-axis. Both parentheses were the same. All right, let's try 14. So if we graph this, we have a negative x squared minus 1. When we look at the table, can you tell me what the vertex is? I think go one more. If you go to 0, negative 1. We could apply a few points. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 2, negative 5. Bless you. 1, negative 2, 2, negative 5. When you graph this, does it ever hit the x-axis? No. So my zeros, we could say none, we could say no solution. There are no x-intercepts. So we can have 2, we can have 1, or we can have 0. The factored form on this, there's really not a whole lot we can do. We could take out a negative, but then that's x squared plus 1. Remember, we can factor a difference of squares, but we can't factor a sum. So that's why we didn't get a 0 here. That doesn't go any further. All right, so I wanted to go over those together because I'm probably not going to give you a problem just like that, where you have to do all of this stuff, but I might give you a graph and ask you what your zeros are. I could say if these are the zeros, which of these would make sense as a factor? So I kind of wanted you to understand the connection between all of this. Is that okay? All right. So let's look at problem 15. So I want to write this in factored form and then give the zeros from that. Now again, we're doing these together because it's probably not going to give you a problem just like this on the test. I'll probably give you one like on the next page that you're factoring, but these are good to practice. Before I could factor this, what would I have to do? Yeah, we have to multiply it all out. This x plus 1 squared means you have x plus 1 times x plus 1. And make sure you guys are doing this with me because this is your study guide. And anything I do, those are questions you don't have to redo on your own. So if I multiply these out, we have to FOIL, so we get x squared plus x plus x plus 1. So that's from the multiplying. We still have this minus 4. So combine my terms, that's x squared plus 2x minus 3. Now, can I factor that? So x squared would break into x. What multiplies to negative 3 and adds to positive 2? Positive 3, negative 1. Okay, once we have that factored form, we can get our zeros. How do you find the zeros? It's just setting those to 0. What makes x plus 3 equal 0? Negative 3. And if you recognize that, you don't necessarily have to show me a lot of work on that. Some people are catching on, it's the opposite, and if you do and you just want to write it down, that's fine. If you need to work it out, then work it out. What makes x minus 1 equal 0? Yep, just the opposite, add 1. So our zeros are negative 3 and positive 1. All right. Let's stop here. I want you guys to work on this. So I still have told you that you didn't have to do problem 3 and you didn't have to do problem 16. So those are the only two left that I had said you don't have to do and we haven't yet worked together. So you can still skip those. We'll probably look at them together tomorrow just as a refresher again. But I want you to finish the rest of this for tomorrow. Now the 32 and 33, so the last two questions, there are graphs there, but those are the problems we did yesterday. So the graph is optional, but I am not going to require it. So on those, use Desmos. You don't have to graph. So tomorrow, this has to be done. We're going to go over things, we're going to review together, and we have this test on Friday. All right? So you guys have time to work.